Welcome to the quarterly recap of the Calspeed Super Series.
Yeah, semi-annual?
Yeah, semi-annual. We'll go semi-annual. I am Chris Huerta, joined by race director Mike Smith. We have LAKC going off in the background, so I'll fix the audio in post, as we always said. Apologies for not doing this sooner. Blame my laptop for that. Apologies to Logan Calvin. He had a great interview. Still have that. At some point, I'll cut that and put that
Snip it in later.
Snip it in later. We'll put it as a blooper reel. Because some of the things he said were funny.
It was good.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good conversation. But we are now done with the month of we are done with at least the July Super Series. We are a week away from the restart of the Ironman and the second half of the Ironman and Sprint season. So I thought it was a good time to do a recap. Let's talk about Super Series. Let's start with Super Series. We are now 7 rounds in. You are before the 8th round before Classico. Last round we had a very South American feel to the podium with Sergio Bravo coming in and taking the victory.
That's right.
With Andres Prieto, they broke away for a while. Then Miles Calvin just doing what the Calvins do and racking up the podium.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on this last week last round here in July?
Actually, it was a lot of fun to watch. I thought the racing was really good. It was cool to see a not Calvin win. Those guys they've been doing really good, so it's good to see new people. I thought Andreas had a shot at being out there. He led for a long time, but when you got Bravo running second, even though those guys are pals, yeah, Bravo's going to go for the W for sure. It's winning a Super Series. He's not going to give anything away.
Did Andres win the Ironman against Diego, or did he finish second in that one too? He finished second in that one too. So Andres is due one. So I think Diego and Sergio owe him one.
Well, and that was also Andres' best finish in a Super Series
absolutely.
too. Getting the podium, getting that second place. It is second when you're that close to a W. It's tough, but for sure, it was good to see him. Come around with a good finish. And put up some good points. Put him up there, I think, top 7 now in points.
Andres is definitely making some noise. Sergio's moving up in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Saw Logan have a little bit of an off day, and by an off day I mean like he was the back of the top 10. Like I think it's technically a drop round for him.
It is a drop round. 360, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of guys would kill for 360.
Exactly.
Let's talk about how this first half of the season has. It's kind of a tale of two. You've got the guys at the front. You have the two Calvins and Aaron, who had a little bit of a tougher A main, so he dropped back, still within 50 points. And then you have a whole host of new characters in the top 10. Do you see that? Do you see any of those guys in that second half of that top 10 being able to step their level up to the Calvins, or are they just at a different level right now?
Well, I think actually it's probably a little late in the game to be able to claw anything back. I mean, to be honest with you, you look at the like we talked about, 360 is a drop for Logan, and a lot of guys would kill for 360s. So if they have a good round, they're going to be matching points to those guys, not making up ground. And I think that's why it's probably a little late to say that someone else outside of Scott has got a shot at this title. It's the two Calvins and Aaron that got a shot at the championship. I think some of the other guys might, but they're going to need a lot of help. And it's going to come from bad things happening to those other guys. Because to make up ground, their throwouts are so good. I mean, Miles Calvin's, he's got his worst 2 rounds are 5th place.
Yeah, he has a 380 and a 360. He has better drops than his brother.
Exactly. And now he's 1 point back right now in the standings. But if you look at his total points, he's got an extra like 120, 160 points or something like that. He's maybe it's not that much, but it's a good chunk more than Logan. He's definitely got it in hand as far as the throwouts go.
Well, they're separated by let's be emphasized. They're separated by 1 point right now. Miles has never won a Calspeed title. Mm-hmm. Logan has won 3, correct?
He's won
2. He's won 2.
He won 2. I think 12 in last year.
Yeah, 12 in last year. He won Grands, and as Logan said, every time he's won Grands, he wins the Super Series championship.
Right.
The Super Series championship.
He then promptly went out and had a bad round.
Exactly.
So maybe he spoke early.
Maybe he spoke a little early. Do you give an edge to either one of them? Obviously, they're continuing to work together, but at some point in the very near future, I think that they are definitely going to start racing a little more head to head.
You weren't at the last round.
I wasn't at the last round,
and you missed those two guys going head to head. It started already. It happened in this last round when those guys are getting after it. You actually saw, and they've done some racing already this year, but it's definitely been very tactful, smart, make sure we don't lose a bunch. And it was definitely just kind of elbows up racing out of those two guys this time. And I think that's what you're going to see the rest of the year. We got 5 more races to go, and you'll probably start seeing me write about in the preview. It's going to be the brothers' war, I think, between these two guys.
Yeah, I want to give Aaron some credit. The fact that he took it to the Calvins in the first heat. From what the guys were telling me, was he passed both Calvins going into Monaco on one of the laps.
Aaron he's been doing it all year, right? He's been the cat who's been able to be right there with those guys, and he was again this time. Like you said, he had a bad A main that just ended up getting a little bit worse for him. But regardless, he's been the only guy this year that has been round in, round out, been able to make things happen and be up there. It's not over for him, but he's going to have to grab some gears here.
Yeah, he's definitely got to get a first win. Definitely got to continue to make podiums. In talking to him, he's definitely said that qualifying is the biggest difference between where he was last year and this year, which is funny because in this last round, he qualified terribly for his standards. Let's talk a little bit about the guys, that group of drivers that are 4th to 10th. We're talking about guys that, we mentioned this before, there's only 3 guys in the top 10 who have ever podiumed.
Right.
And it's the 2 Calvins.
And that's top 5 podiums.
Yeah, that's top,
overall.
Yeah, and that's the 2 Calvins and Sergio. Let's go back to 4th place. Charles Eichlin rebounded from a very difficult Grands and continued to have a good run. Henry Morse, a winner a couple rounds ago. Very good round, was on pole for the A main. Another top 10. He's 5th. You have Sergio, who's moved his way up into the 6th. Andres is 7th. Adam went back. He's in 8th, but he was very strong in the first half of the season. You've got old man Mark Connell in 9th, who has put himself, was 4th last round, made the podium the round before. He's making some noise, and you have old Sean Coors Light Fight in the top 10. A guy that was a sprint champion last year and has made a significant leap up to the front. Are there any of those guys that maybe surprise you, or that you want to give a lot of credit to for improving their game?
Actually, it's tough to really single anybody out. The entire group really needs to get a nod, because if you look at the names that are in there, it's not that they haven't made the podium or whatever. This is one of the few times they're actually inside the top 10, save for Adam Nagel. Rob, we talked about Sergio's in there as well. But at the end of the day, you're looking at Charles Eichlin, who's been towards the sharp end before. I think he's been inside that top 10. But not right. Not. I think Connell was right there before. Morse has been towards the sharp end, but again hasn't been putting in full-time rides, stuff like that. So the entire group has not really been there all the time. So nod to all of them to actually be fighting inside the top 10 right now.
And just outside the top 10, you have 2 guys that are, there's still 3 other guys that have a shot at jumping into the top 10. They're less than 200 points out. And that's still a huge gap considering you have 5 races left. But you have Bill Krieg, who's in 11th. You have Ian Enns, who's in 12th. And you have the former national champion, John Kimbrell, who's sitting in 13th. And Matt Hart, who's also just right outside there in 14th.
Yeah. So you got a lot of people right there who could make some noise, get inside the top 10. People who I think are right there with them. There's really no reason why they couldn't. Get a few things to go their way. They're going to be inside that top 10.
All right, before we drop off and go to the subcategories, I do want to mention the fact that last round before the chase, and we have a couple of interesting things. So you have 2 guys in the chase that may not run the next round and may drop out, and bring in a couple guys in. You have Marcin Balaz, who's most likely going to miss the next round. He's 15th. And Ian Enns, who might miss the next round.
Right.
He's 12th.
I'll tell you, too, on the Enns thing, that kills me to see Enns. He's having a great year.
Yeah.
Was inside the top 10. Had to miss the last deal, and it's tough to see him.
I definitely hope that he makes the next round.
Just so you can make that chase.
Exactly.
Chase, right?
Exactly. The most important title in Calspeed. That's no Calvin has won it. That's the only title out there that Calvin hasn't won.
You know who we're not going to see either is the two-time Chase winner.
Well,
right?
I mean,
Darren.
I mean, Darren may, if he comes out and wins Classico, I mean, Diego may do that. Taylor may do that.
I know
Casey or Cameron Jocelyn may do that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. Let me go ahead and ix a couple of names. Mercer and Cook out. They test, so they won't be doing it. Well. Taylor, for those of you guys who follow along the at-home game, he actually tests with us usually, and he's not doing any testing currently, so he can go and do the race.
Yes. So right now you have 17th Jose De Silva, who's had a very tough year, but he's
a very good year.
He's had some runs. Okay, Jose was a guy that you looked at and you're like, okay, he's going to break in the top 10, top 5 of the A's. He kind of took it seemed like he was fell a little bit farther back to like the 15th and 20th. He's had some tough days in talking to him. Nick Marasio, give him a lot of credit. He's 18th in points. He was up front and he won a heat race at the last round. 19th is Aaron Downs. 20th is Patrick, who's not going to run. Alyssa's 21st. And then you have Bruce, who's 22nd. So you have
who's also not going to run.
Who's also not going to run. So you have a lot of guys that are definitely within striking range. It all that's going to depend on. There's one free spot right now.
So you have to be in the top what?
Top 16, unless you win, and then you're automatically in.
Top 16.
And
there's
the
a
Calvins,
few of those names that are going to go. So it's going to get open.
Exactly.
Wow. How exciting!
Exactly. How exciting! Well, let's talk about something that's also exciting. We have we have a new challenger for the Masters title.
That's right.
Mark Connell has put himself, I think it's 37 points behind Sergio Bravo for the Masters title. You have Diego Morales, who missed the last round. He dropped out. And you have a whole kit and caboodle of people in the top that are battling for that last podium spot.
Exactly. And it was closer than that going in the last round, but I think what it goes to show how good Connell's doing right now is the fact that Sergio wins and Connell stays right there with him. I can't remember where exactly he finished. I think it might have been 6th or 7th overall in that race.
Yeah.
I'm not positive. But he was right there. Didn't lose that much points. In fact, there was times where they were neck and neck the entire time. So the fact that he's close, that this opportunity that Bravo has to gain big points, and he gains like 20, is big for that championship fight. It's still close between them. Bravo's got the advantage, the 5-time in a row Masters champion. He sets the bar. He's the guy to beat. But Connell's looking real good right now.
You look back at that last podium spot, you're talking about third spot. The distance between third and 8th, not including Diego, who, if he still makes the rest of the rounds, has the ability to pass all of those guys, is less than 150 points. Awesome. You're talking about Jose De Silva's in third. Vince Burt, a lot of props to him. He's less than 100 points back in fourth. Then it gets even tighter. You have Nathan Hood, who's in fifth. Shout out to Jake Hood. I hope that he gets better very soon.
If he's even hurt, I feel like he's fake.
That's true. Bleeding out the ear is definitely
I've had that. It's not good.
Alex Bermudez, your Rookie of the Year
leader. Yeah.
He's in 6th. Ariel Rubio's in 7th. And you have Steve Spring, who's less than 150 points back in 8th. Puts a couple rounds together. It's right there.
Yeah, it's gotten real tight. We saw that last year where it was really the breakaway at the sharp end, and then just a host of guys behind him. That same host of guys is there, but now they're even better and they're getting closer, and it's anything between them. A lot of these guys are fighting each other on track during each race, and that's where those points mean so much, because you're not just looking on the pen and paper and going, okay, well, he's over here, whatnot. No, they're actually racing each other in those A mains directly.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Masters, it's a title for the old guys.
Oldish guys.
Oldish guys. Not the,
We have the old guys.
Old guys. And then we have the oldish guy, or the older guys.
Older guys.
And that's being dominated by a very familiar name, Dennis Kimbrough.
Dennis Kimbrough looking for the hat trick, going for 3 here. He's gotten the last 2. Last year it was an interesting situation. This year he's looking a lot like it was the first year, where he's trying to fend off guys like Brian Starr, who was a perennial front runner in this group, and he had to fight off in the first one. And now you got a bunch of new names. You got guys like Sabella, Frame, and Latimer up there. Different guys trying to make things happen in that Grandmasters group.
Yeah, Dennis had another A-main run. I think he almost outscored John in this last run.
Yeah.
I know he gets a little pride at
I actually
in
hear
doing
that if it wasn't for Dennis, John would have had nothing in this
Yeah,
last round.
yeah.
If you talk to Dennis, he pushed them all the way. It sounded
Exactly.
like, yeah.
John should be washing dishes. Is that what you're
Basically,
yeah, basically.
It's basically get out of there. Move over for the other Kimbrell.
Right behind them, you've got another significant battle. Less than 150 points between second and sixth. Like you mentioned, Brian Starr, a guy who's always up front. Sabella, a new name. Steve Frame, who still has made every event that Calspeed has ever put together.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, always an inspiration to see out there. Frame is a fun guy to run with, and one of the nicest guys in the
and he's gotten better and better and better every year.
Absolutely.
He's doing awesome.
Jeff Latimer, who's made a Grandmasters podium.
Yeah, I think it was the first year. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have Tom Zevin, who's running sixth. He's less than 128 points.
Yeah, and he's having a banner year. I think he just had his best finish ever.
Yeah, he had a great B-main this last run. What do you think is is there a difference between a mindset for a guy who's like a grandmaster, a guy who you're only going to really see maybe one? Dennis maybe is the only one that can make an A-main. Is it a different focus when you're battling in a B-main or you're trying to get a goal for a B-main or C-main?
Well, actually, I think with those guys, it's more about personal development. I mean, all those guys are just trying to get better. I mean, Dennis has been doing it longer than the rest of these cats, right? He's been doing this for a while, side by side with John and whatnot. He's been doing it, so he's the guy who's really setting the bar. Brian Starr had a late start to the season, but he's definitively the number 2 guy in the experience category.
Yeah, no drops for Brian Starr, so that will be interesting.
Exactly. So whatever he gets, he gets. But everybody else is definitely on development. They're just trying to get better. They're working and they're doing coaching, they're doing clinics, they're doing things to try to improve. And everybody is improving in different ways at different times. Case in point, Tom Zevin coming off with his best finish. So there's some ebb and flow there. Are they thinking about points? Are they thinking about how to get to the next main? Not sure. It could be in there, but I think that's a byproduct of just trying to get better.
Let's go to the one title that is pretty much decided now. When Alex Bermudez is a massive gap right now for the rookie title. He's a guy who's probably he's made A-mains now.
Mm-hmm.
He's putting in the time. He's running. He's a top contender in Sprint Series as well. Right on the cusp of winning a heat race. Then you have the guys that are battling to get on the podium. You have some guys that made a lot of jumps, especially at Grands. You're talking about Brandon DeLoro. He made some moves. And then a guy who's really impressed me is Tyler Russo.
Right.
Russo. My apologies. Ran Grands, was one of the last guys to sign up. Slowly improved as the weekend went on. Made his first B-main in the last one, and definitely raced a lot of good guys to make it into that B-main.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the impact of Grands going forward, and how that extra seat time helps rookies make the leap, especially in the second half.
Yeah, so you got guys like Justin Schuler, who's actually doing a lot of LO206 racing.
A lot
he
of
actually just
carts.
came off of his best LO206 run. So he's missed the last couple of rounds, did not do Grands again, focusing on that competition karting. Second is in the rookie points right now, and he is getting better. I'll be curious to see if he's able to do some more races, see if he does stick with it. If he does, he's going to make sure he can solidify that second. If not, he could go backwards a little bit. You got Brendan DeLordo running juniors today. He's out there. He's looking better than he ever has. Just got done doing a racing camp, so we could see him get a little bit better as well. Schuler, DeLordo,
Slivkov, who ran Grands too.
Slivkov is not actually a rookie. Yeah, that's a mistake in there.
That's a mistake. Never mind.
Slivkov is not a rookie, but once it gets in the system, it can't be deleted.
I gotcha.
So, but it is Schuler, DeLordo, Russo, but then there's also Wicca in there, and he's been steady. If he can get a little bit more, which, by the way, props to Tony Wicca, saw the best driving from him this last round, not as necessarily in points per se, but what he was doing on track, giving some more room, changing what he did. Kind of got run over a couple times, but I liked seeing the fact that he wasn't the one doing the running over, which is huge when you're a rookie. Difference. So, yeah, interesting how that's going to go. They're all going for second and third, the other hardware spots, because it does look like Bermuda's going to basically wrap that thing.
Hey, man, anytime you can finish in the top 3 in a rookie championship. That's saying
right.
something. Let's talk about. I mean, look at guys that didn't make didn't make podiums in the rookie dial. You're talking about Charles Eichland didn't make it back in the day.
Very good job.
Ian didn't. Aaron Scott didn't his rookie year. That's all from the same rookie year, by the
Yeah,
way.
we've had some pretty crazy rookie years.
Yeah.
But again, just because you're not there the rookie year doesn't mean you can't be there later.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where even being in the fight, even being mentioned in that group is big.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the title goes, it's probably going to be all well and done.
Let's talk a little bit about the team championship.
Mm-hmm.
You've got it's basically one team up front, and then a whole host of about 5 teams that are continually interchanging, depending on how they run. The gap has actually been the gap grew the first couple of rounds and has basically stayed. It's been maintained
Until this last round where it got chopped again just a little bit, and that it was 100% because it was the first time in a while that our top team actually didn't put up big numbers.
Yeah, Vince had a bit of a tough round. It's T4 Midvale. Vince had a tough round. Carter had a really good round, and Aaron had a drop round as well. Looking at second place, you're talking about Jose Da Silva, Michael Florchinger, and Sean Fight had a drop. The other 2 didn't. They made up some ground. You have the Calvin team, the Cody Calvin, Logan Calvin, who's using a drop of 362, and then Steve Jasinski. And then the last team that really is going to be in contention is the Fast and Furious team. Talking about Andres Prieto, Ashley Arnott, Dennis Kimbrell. They're the first team of the top 4 that used that last round, especially when you have Dennis running into the AA main.
Mm-hmm.
You have Andres finishing second. Ashley was running about where she normally is. That's all you have to do really for a team championship, right, Mike?
We got to be consistent.
Yeah.
You got to be consistent. You have to be able to hit your weight or better. As long as you're hitting your weight, you're doing all right. But if you start missing opportunities at points, that's when the team can start to slide a little bit. And at the end of the day, you got to be able to hit you. And by what you hit your weight, I mean hit your value, whatever you were supposed to be at. That's your minimum. And you got to be able to hit that. If you're not hitting that, then you're starting to make a little bit of a deficit to overcome. And that's where we see the number 2 and number 3 drivers of every team, not the A guy, not like an Aaron Scott or a Logan Calvin. Those guys, it's easier for them to lose points every round. But an Ashley or a Chris Carter or Vince Burke, those types of drivers, they need to be able to find a little bit extra. They are the ones that really help win these championships for teams.
Yeah, and it's actually very interesting to see 4 different groups, 4 different sets of drivers. You have the CRD team, you have the RNA team, you have the Fast and the Furious team, you have the T4 team. 4 different distinct groups going for that team championship. Is that the idea behind the team championship?
The idea is for the entire paddock to be getting out there and having fun and having different people going for hardware. At the end of the day, it's about bringing more people into the fold. It's not about any big super teams or anything like that. It's really about helping people get better, having multiple people get a chance to go for things that maybe they wouldn't normally be able to do. Maybe they're not able to contend for a Masters championship or an overall championship or Grandmasters, whatever it may be, but they can contribute to a team championship.
Yeah, it's the giving the ability for the second and third drivers to go for something that's going to be a very meaningful and it's big hardware.
Certainly.
Yeah. Any last thoughts on Super Series going into the Classico GP? It's you've made it the granddaddy, the Monaco of the Super Series.
Exactly.
You've definitely got a lot of guys that may come out and won off the race because of how unique it is. You get squeezing the barriers. It's all about qualifying.
Yeah. No, it's definitely about qualifying. That's why we, again, it being the oldest one that we have, I call it our Monaco for a couple different reasons. One, because of the prestige of it being the original track, but also because it's tight. There's not a lot of room to make things happen. I made it even tougher by putting the barriers up there, and it's a challenge. You got to get qualifying down right. You got to hit the marks just right, just like you do in Monaco with the F1 cars. Those guys are putting in the lap to try to make things happen. So yeah, really excited about the Classico Grand Prix. Probably, in my opinion, the coolest trophy we have. The actual track map on there.
Yes.
Big fan of that deal. And also you got the poster. We got Sergio Bravo as the reigning Classico Grand Prix champion.
And he won the last round.
And he won the last round. So he got a lot of momentum going into it, and we'll see if he can make it 2 in a row.
All right, let's move on to a restart of your Ironman and Sprint before we get into the, in my opinion, the best race of the year, which is the Ironman Classico round. It is the most wearing round, and it is going to be the most unique and the race where strategy impacts you the most.
Right.
You're talking about an inverted grid. Mike and I were talking about 28 guys are eligible for the invert based on the last round. So you're talking about 28 guys. The winner from the last round, Diego Morales, can start 28th. If all the guys in front of him started,
if that was the way it is, yeah, I mean for sure that's it. It's gotten that way though. In the beginning of the year, we were having right around 20.
Yeah.
But everybody's getting better. They're getting faster, and granted, we also had some longer tracks there, so it's a little easier to be on that lead lap. But still, people are making things happen. They're getting better. Regardless, we've got a very interesting grid for the next one. It's inverted. It's Classico. It's tough. Strategy is going to be big.
Strategy is definitely going to be big. You've got right now the head honcho of the Ironman, and that's Adam Nagao. He's got a lead over Diego Morales. And then you're going to be missing the next two guys.
Yeah.
John Kimbrell's missing the next round. Marcin Blasio, who's in fourth, is missing the next round. And so you move up guys like Taylor Hayes, your defending champion, who moves up in the third. Mark Connell, who is always up front in the Ironman. That seems like that suits him very well. He would move up to fourth. You have Sergio Bravo, Sean Fide, Nick Marasio, Henry Morris. Going into the second half of the season, how big is coming out with a good run in the Classico GP, because it is the toughest, in my opinion, the toughest Ironman?
Well, I mean, certainly it's really tough physically.
Yeah.
It's tough to pass on and because of how tight it is, and it's shorter. You get more laps in, and maybe that's another reason why she's a little bit more physical, but because it is just still a 60-minute race. It's also the last clockwise direction track that we're going to have on that schedule. We're going to go Classico reverse, and then we're going to go Technico, and then finish things off on Grande Counter. So if you are not a reverse driver, then
if you're not Adam Nagao,
yeah, it could be tough. It could be tough. But yeah, anytime you start off a championship, because it is the beginning of the summer sub-championship, everybody is tied for first going into the next round. Starting off well means you don't have to dig out of a hole. If you're talking about the overall championship, it's a chance to sneak back some points, etc. It's kind of a wild card round, much like Daytona or Talladega is for the NASCAR boys. Classico can be that way with the Ironman.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be an interesting race. I'll be unfortunately watching it, but I'll be intent to see the various pit strategies, as well as just who runs well.
Yeah.
I mean,
who can do it for 60 minutes?
Yeah, who can do it exactly for 60 minutes? You may be able to do it for 55 minutes, but the last 5 minutes, it's definitely
creeps up.
It gets pretty brutal. Let's go on to the sprint championship. You have your four main contenders. Ashley Arnaud, who was your first champion,
Winter champion.
Your winter champion. You have Luis Calderon, Caden Thur, and Alex Bermudez. The majority of the sprint field ran Grands and got plenty of lap times. Two exceptions in the top 10. Caden Thur, who's in third, and Diego Alvarado, who's in ninth. Is there anyone in the top 10? We're talking about Bermudez, who's in fourth, who's right up there. Jasinski's in fifth. Don Diego Valoria, who had some really good runs at Grands, in sixth. Dwayne Lawson, who's running everything that this facility offers, in seventh. Kelly Bastian in eighth, and then TJ Blackledge in 10th. Is there any of those guys that you saw make some leaps that can definitely go after that winter championship, besides the main 4 or 5 guys?
Well, yeah, actually all of them, really. Steve Jasinski has been a former contender for the championship at Sprint last year. He was towards the sharp end. I believe he finished 4th or 5th overall, something like that.
He was just on the cusp of not being eligible.
Exactly. So, and I think that he a slow start at the beginning of the year in different things, but I think he's going to be in pretty good shape moving forward, especially as his focus turns a little bit more to the arrive and drive stuff with the way things are going out here at the competition karting thing. So I think he's going to be right in there. TJ Blackledge on the other end of the spectrum there in 10th. I think that he's made some big strides. I think Grant was good to him, so I'll be curious to see how he does. The pace is better. The mindset looks to be better for him. He looks less of a rookie than he did at the beginning of the year, and it's been short. It's been a short half season, and he's gained a lot. Don Diego's gotten better for sure. Kelly Bastian just has come off of a good couple of months. he gained a lot during Grands. So I'm excited about that entire top 10. I think that's the nice thing about it. It came down to the final race and this for the Winter Championship.
Came down to like the last lap, essentially.
And I think it's going to basically be another 4-round shootout for this one. It's going to be great to watch.
Let's talk about the importance of a guy running the Winter Sub Championship. There's last year we had a guy, Matt Hart, didn't run any of the first 4 rounds. He might have run 1 or 2 of the first over the winter side. Came in the summer side, made a huge impact, won that championship, and then has propelled himself obviously to run up front. Made the super final at Grands, running top 10s at Super Series. Let's talk about that track time in the Sprint Series in the second half. How important is that to a guy, and maybe not a Matt Hart who has plenty of laps, but a guy who doesn't have as many laps and wants to get into sport karting?
Well, yeah, for sure. If you actually are looking to get going, get maybe 2017 started early, this is the perfect time to do it. And it's the perfect series to do it. You go out there and you clean slate. You may have missed the whole first half of the year. That's just fine, because now the season starts over. Are you going to go out there and set the world on fire out of the gate? Probably not. Most people don't. But you're going to learn a bunch, and getting a chance to have a clean slate now means you can see where you rank with everybody else and really kind of get things going before you go full-fledged racing next year.
Okay, before we start to wrap this up, I do want to get do you have a favorite going into sprint of the front 4, of the Ashley, the Luis, the Caden, and the Bermudez? Keep in mind, Luis the only one the only non-2R driver who's won a race.
Right.
He also has the worst drop of the 4.
It's true.
Ashley, the most consistent of them.
Yep.
Caden has the most podiums.
Yeah.
And Bermudez is the only one of them that's been that you could say has been a consistent A-main driver in the Super Series.
And actually, I got to go Bermudez on this one. He's got the most to claw back. He is 4th, and he's got to claw some back. But I think that he's gained a lot at Grands, and I just think that he did not put things together. And the 4 races that he ran, he just didn't put things together 100%. He looked his best in April, and then made a rookie mistake and gave up a heat win, which tossed his championship hopes away for that one. But what he's doing in the Super Series, on paper, it says he should be the guy doing the most damage, if you will. That being said, Caden Thur is looking really, really good. Consistently find the podium here. I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Classico, I mean, these Ashley and Luis are the only ones that have run Classico. The other 2 are definitely going to be new to it, and it is a fun track. It's a fun track. I don't think any of them are. Is there anyone that's dumb enough to run the Ironman and then try to run the sprint?
I don't think
that's
no, I don't think
not a good
anybody's doing
idea.
that.
That's
In fact,
not a good idea.
A few people were maybe thinking about it, decided not to.
Yeah, it's you are throwing away the sprint if you're trying to run the Ironman.
Quite possible. Quite possible.
Let's talk about a couple of things that you have before the next Super Series. After the Classico GP, you mentioned that you wanted to do a town hall meeting.
Yeah, exactly. So late last year we did a round table. Had a select few drivers that from the paddock in the Super Series that we pulled in to have a kind of just a meeting of what are we going to do for the next year, any changes we want to make, etc. Do another one of those here in the middle of the season, but it's more of open to everybody. So instead of just 10-15 drivers or 10-15 people, it's going to be open to everybody at the end of the day. So basically we'll finish up the podium ceremonies, crack open a couple, have a good time, do some bench racing, but we're all going to be doing it here in the classroom. We're just going to talk about everything Calspeed, Sprint Series, Super Series, Ironman, everything. The new LO206, Machismo, everything. So it'll be full of, it'll have an agenda. We're going to be doing some serious stuff about what do we want to do, what do we want to change, do we want to change anything, and what we have coming up. So if you got ideas, you got things you want to talk about, show up, bring it up, and we'll make sure this thing is clean, cut, and to the point, so we can make it as constructive as possible. So looking forward to that too. We'll have the Classical Grand Prix, and right afterwards we'll be talking big picture stuff for Calspeed.
Yep. All sounds good. Next time we will be on will be after the round 6 Ironman in August. We'll be able to announce the chase grids for all 3 series.
Indeed.
So that should be fun. We actually have some interesting working on some interesting actual trophies for that. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that should be fun. I gotta
throw it out right now. I feel like the past champions deserve some some trophies.
Oh no, I will take care of Darren Darren Mercer. I gotta give credit to Sean Fight. He had one good idea, so I'm gonna give him credit for this idea. So we just gotta produce it now.
Awesome.
So this should be fun. Well, you have an entertaining rest of your day at LAKC.
Yes.
Great view, and we will check you all out for the next recap. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.